Abandoned Westminster Mall, California, by Bright Sun Films. Maybe some urban exploration. I like
Just
this kind of
outside
videos.
Los Angeles, California, down Interstate 405 past Long Beach and south of Anaheim is the Westminster Mall in the town of Westminster. It was a mall which opened with great fanfare and success through the later half of the 20th century. But that success would later change by the 2020s, and following its unceremonious closure, the mall had been completely trashed beyond recognition. So today, let's take a look at what happened here, from the mall's golden years to the decline and later abandonment.
Man, COVID killed so many things, I mean. So many business, so many malls.
This is the Westminster Mall.
And so many people.
For decades prior to the mall, this was open rural land. Not a ton around, just some small farms and single-family homes. In fact, following World War II, a Japanese couple would actually set up what would become the world's largest goldfish farm here.
Okay.
That would eventually change though. By the 1960s, much of the surrounding land had now been populated by master plan neighborhoods. With a quickly growing middle class and subsequent suburban sprawl, the San Diego freeway was also now being constructed. This portion
I think it's not only COVID. Yeah, I mean, people seem to have messed it up too, I guess. But maybe they speak about COVID, so you could say, COVID killed the mall.
known as Interstate 405. This remaining farm area now made it the perfect developable plot of land. And what better to build than something that had been sweeping across suburban America? In 1972, the Hormart Development Company, which was the nation's second largest mall developer and actually owned by Sears, announced a new shopping center for the city of Westminster. Marketed in the local press as a Sears-built shopping center, the Westminster Mall, as it was now officially named, was promised to be the largest of its kind in Orange County, California.
It's a big boy.
Upon its 93-acre site, the mall would contain 4 anchor stores: Robinson's, Mays, Buffum's, and of course, Sears. The interior of the mall would be populated by over 150 smaller retailers, while the out parcels would feature a cinema and other tenants. So, after 2 years of construction, the 1.2 million square...
I was known for that culture of American mall, right? Like in, well, maybe less these days, but in more classic American movies, like malls have this really special presence, right? Like they're massive, there's so much you can do, so many variety of shop and all that. In France we also have malls, but they're not quite the same. Like where I live right now, there's one, like there's a massive area where you can buy groceries, and then you have like rows of like little shop from like a video game store, a clothing store, like hairstylists and stuff like that, right? But it's still probably like, like 1/10 of those legendary American massive malls, right? Which, they have such a kind of longing reputation, yeah. This is the US, the economic rivalry can be nasty.
Foot Westminster Mall had officially opened to the public on August 7th, 1974. Quite a large grand opening had been held, with civic leaders making speeches, a full band commemorating the ceremony, and customers lining outside the doors. It was reported that the entire enormous 6,600 car parking lot was pretty much full. And It was easy to see why this opening was met with such enthusiastic fanfare. Westminster Mall was a peak example of 1970s shopping center design. Across the multi-level complex, shoppers would not only find plenty of stores, but they would also find lush foliage, beautiful bespoke sculptures, and cozy sunken lounge areas. Its vast pyramid-style center court spanned...
What is this, Hogwarts? Why does it look like this? That's like the Hogwarts stairways that are moving,
3 levels, with various elevated bridges and staircases, some lined with red carpet. It was an impressive piece of architecture, some of the most impressive many local shoppers had ever encountered. By 1982, Sears had sold the mall to an out-of-state management firm who were already looking to upgrade the property, looking to what they called bring the mall into the 1980s. So in 1987, they announced a 2.5-year major renovation to the entire structure. Everything would be modernized, including a new food court area, a redesign of the center court, complete with new tiled floors, a glassed enclosed elevator, and even more retail space, which would occupy the wide open area of that center court. Charlotte Russe would be the main tenant for this new area. This $10 million renovation proved to be pretty popular too, as Westminster Mall was now the second highest grossing retail center in the county. By the 1990s, the mall was continuing on with pretty good success. While some anchors
citizen
were
well-being.
mainly
I mean, that's like that in a lot of countries, I think. Yeah.
due to the May Company merger, JCPenney would take over the former Robinson space, and by the dawn of the new century, Macy's would actually construct a brand new anchor space in 2002. They would only stay there for a rather short time though, as they would then move to a different anchor space in the mall, with Target now taking their place. When Target came in, the mall owners would actually split up their land and sell the store itself and surrounding parking lot to Target outright. They would eventually do this for other parcels of land as well. By this point, the mall's ownership had actually been changed once again, now with the Simon Property Group taking over. They would also embark on a $10 million renovation.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. What are we doing? Like, are we dumping on the US for everything they do wrong right now? I guess it is. If there's a time to do it, it's right now, yeah, I get it. Yeah, US cars they're not safe, that's to be sure, yeah. I mean, they're just too big, yeah. That's the thing.
Hoping to modernize the entire property.
Bigger doesn't always mean better, and I mean, you know, it's probably the same with some of the malls, right? Like, they die eventually because they were too big, and eventually as, like, economy and population change, I guess, you know, they can't adapt because they're just too big in the first place, yeah. So, that's the problem with a lot of the US stuff. It's just too big.
To attract more upscale tenants. While the last renovation may have taken the mall into the 1980s, this one was going to take them into the 2000s. This massive renovation happened in 2008, and Simon continued to make improvements, focusing on the interior of the mall, sprucing up decorations, adding in a children's play area, and even a carousel. By the time this renovation was complete, the country was now reeling from the nationwide financial crisis, and the mall itself was now a modern, yet pretty bland-looking space. Worse yet for the property, total sales within was way down, sliding from second to now 8th place in Orange County by 2012. Occupancy was sliding too. More stores continued to close through the years, and even with an 85% occupancy rates, Westminster still had the lowest occupancy rate in the area. In fact, many of the former big-name tenants inside Westminster had moved to other shopping areas in the area, places like the enormous South Coast Plaza, with it only being a 15-minute...
So just make something bigger. Fair enough. Fair enough. So it died because it wasn't big enough. That's the moral of the story.
Drive away. Why would any customer make the trip out to Westminster when South Coast had so much more variety and was arguably a nicer place to spend your time? Not to mention that this is Southern California, where the need for a climate-controlled indoor shopping mall is not all that necessary. And even in the direct surrounding areas of Westminster, you can find all types of strip retail and attractive outdoor plazas. With lower foot traffic in the building, it was beginning to become much harder to attract big brand names. And as such, the vicious cycle continued, all as Westminster Mall began to earn a dead mall reputation. Now that's certainly not to say that
wasn't COVID then. COVID was the final blow.
That this was a completely dead mall. The property still had plenty of stores and people walking around, but the signs were there, mainly for lease signs. By 2018, as a part of the company's continued financial issues, Sears, one of the original stores and the original developer, had closed their anchor location. By now, Simon Property Group had spun off a division of their company called Washington Prime Group. This new corporate entity would now operate the slowly dying mall. But this owner wouldn't be in the greatest financial condition, as by the time the pandemic hit in 2020, they would later file for bankruptcy. Westminster Mall, in an already declining state, was obviously heavily affected by the pandemic, seeing a massive decrease in foot traffic and sales. Layoffs and store closures would all plague the mall through 2021. Developers knew that something had to be done with the property, and already architectural firms were being hired to draw up potential redevelopment plans. First with the idea of demolishing only 2 of the potential...
I mean, I definitely like the one on the left because they plan to add a lot more greenery. which is, I feel like, always a good choice. Yeah. The one on the right doesn't do enough. Like, there's a little bit of green, but it's not enough. Yeah.
Redevelopment plans. First, with the idea of demolishing only 2 of the anchor tenants and using the lots to build out dense residential. It was thought that by adding a mix of housing and commercial, essentially attached to the existing mall structure, it would reinvigorate the dying property. This idea expanded into something even larger by 2022, as a new plan was developed by the city council. This one would essentially redevelop the vast parking lot and densify a series of residential buildings, potentially building out up to 3,000 new homes. City council would ultimately approve this framework for a development. They just needed someone to actually make the investment. Meanwhile, California-based developer Shop Off Realty Investments had acquired the empty Sears parcel as well as the flanking Macy's parcel. They wanted to build out their own development, dubbed Bolsa Pacific at Westminster, and this would follow a similar design which previously had been proposed, one that would build out a hotel and several residential structures. While these plans were announced in 2023, very little movement had actually been made on the development thereafter. Within the mall, very few brand name stores still operated inside, and that number would only continue to decline. In 2025, Westminster would lose both Macy's, which would close in March, and JCPenney, which announced they would be closing permanently by the end of the year. With 2 more major anchor tenants now closing, Washington Prime Group, which still owned the majority of the property, had clearly seen the writing on the wall. With the aging structure and continued pushes for redevelopment, the mall was
so massive. And again, like I was thinking about earlier, like where I live right now, it's a pretty small town. I mean, there's a couple thousand people, right? And you know, there's a mall kind of place, yeah. But it's still like just 1/10 of this, and it still feels kind of massive, right? Like when you get into one of the side entrance, it still takes like 5 minutes maybe to walk to the main grocery area, right? The massive main grocery area, as you walk in front of all the store. But it's still like, you know, looking at the image, yeah, like it's still so tiny compared to all this. I mean, yeah, it's like being in a full city, this giant like US mall.
Life support. While the company gave no official indication as to the financial state of the property, it's easy to infer that the rising costs to operate the building and the decrease in tenant income were more than enough reasons to shutter it for good. After giving a notice to all remaining tenants that their leases would expire in October, Westminster Mall officially closed for good on October 29th, 2025. JCPenney would stay open a few more weeks as it slowly liquidated its inventory. It would close in November, while Target, the only remaining anchor store left, continued to do good business and claimed that they would continue to operate into the near future. The rest of the property, however, was shuttered and now effectively abandoned. This meant that in the middle of a massive metropolitan area, there was an abandoned mall, one which was rather easy to get inside of. Early videos inside following the closure showed...
I was about to say, like, it just, you know, if I live close to there and I was like a dumb kid, I would love to try to get inside and explore, you know? Like, there's something about something like this that just makes you want to explore, yeah?
The structure in pretty good condition. The power remained on inside the building, with signs that were still illuminated across the silent, open space. Only some storefronts and glass had minor spray-painted graffiti, while the owners had removed the carousel from the Macy's wing. Squatters had taken up refuge inside the disheveled former storefronts and began scrapping copper and other materials. Everything else was left exactly as it was the day the mall closed, even leaving behind the full trampoline park. This suspended animation of the structure wouldn't last forever, though. With reportedly only a single security car periodically circling the property, the massive building was more or less easy enough to get into. And boy, did people get in. Reports claim that the mall had various doors which were just left
is one guy going to, like, secure all this? Like, seriously.
Unlocked. And with the general Los Angeles reputation for tagging, word quickly got out on how easy it was to get inside the mall. In a matter of just 3 weeks, I'm not kidding, the mall went from looking like this to this. Obviously, a lot of people started getting into the structure. Kids...
Man, I do like tagging. I think, like, the tagging style can look good. but it just depends where you do it. And obviously, like, yeah, I don't like this. I don't like this. Like, this looks terrible. Yeah. Like, who cares, you might say. I'm not like saying, you know, I'm sad for like the rich owners of this mall or something. That's not what I'm saying, but just aesthetically, this looks like shit.
Vandals, taggers, and artists. It was an absolute free-for-all. And in just 20 days, it looked like the apocalypse had occurred. While the pitch black anchor stores had some graffiti.
Like, they didn't just tag, they trashed the place. Like, what the fuck, huh? They broke the windows and everything. Man.
It looked like the apocalypse had occurred. While the pitch black anchor stores had some graffiti and fallen down ceiling tiles, the condition within wasn't too bad. It wasn't until you entered the main mall concourse where the true destruction was. Basically, every easily accessible surface had been tagged by someone.
And it's so stupid to do this too, because like, you know, if you live in like, this is people who live in this city, right? And sure, the place is abandoned for now, but you know, it's not like it was in a terrible state. There was potential that, you know, it could come back. But now with the amount of damage and cleaning up there would be to do with all this, I mean, you know, it probably kills it forever. As like, no one would like it would probably be even more expensive for like anyone to invest in trying to revive this place and make it into something good for the city. So again, it's like residents of the city literally fucking themselves by doing this. And I'm sure they're not thinking about that, right? But yeah, like, this place is now doomed.
While everything else had been destroyed by vandals. Shop windows had been completely smashed in, furniture had been piled in one of the concourses, and pretty much every fire extinguisher had been set off. Photos inside showed a ghostly haze in the air from all the dust. What's especially crazy about all of this, especially from an urban exploration perspective, was that the building was still relatively clean. The skylights are still intact, the floors aren't pooling with water, the walls aren't moldy. I mean, there's still power on inside. Yet the whole building, in terms of tagging and destruction...
It literally, like, it looks like a level in The Last of Us. Like, zombie apocalypse happened 20 years ago and it became like this. And yet, you're telling me this took like a month?
Looks like it's been abandoned for a decade and a half. All of this is happening, mind you, while Target on the other side of this wall is still very much in business. Even the outside has clear signs of destruction, right down to the main entrance sign, which has graffiti all over it, with the exterior glass all smashed out. Clearly, local officials had had enough. Westminster police had already said they had gotten over 400 calls of people inside, with individuals who had been inside claiming that they had seen up to 60 people inside the mall at one time, which is insane. At the end of the day, this many people inside an abandoned...
Filming and posting on social media is not very smart. Why? Because police watch social media. I mean, I wish it was that easy, right? You would think, but I feel like in a lot of cases like this, they probably won't face consequences, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And structure that is this well known is probably a recipe for disaster. It's effectively a lawless place in there. While this was all happening, Shop-Off Realty Investments, the company which owned the Macy's and Sears lots, had actually started to make big moves on the site. They would ultimately acquire the remaining 57 acres of land, including the entire mall itself. By combining all of their already purchased parcels, they were now proposing a new plan. This one would effectively clean sheet the site, tearing down the existing mall and build...
Gather the video to show to the judge and court can punish hard. Again, I feel like in 90% of the case that won't happen.
...building out a mixed-use master plan community. This would all be made up of low and mid-density residential housing, a hotel, some commercial, trails, and a small park, all while constructing a new Target building and lots. With the whole site in their possession and city council already on board with rezoning the land, the new developers had very few roadblocks and were ready to get to work. A chain link fence was erected around the property on January 13th. And by February 2026, crews were already inside, securing the structure, tearing out the carpet, and gutting out the former anchor stores, starting with the former Macy's. Shop-Off says that by spring, actual demolition of the building will start, marking the end of the 51-year-long history of the shopping mall. And what a journey it has been. Westminster Mall started out as the classic suburban mall experience, one which featured luxurious, striking interiors, and all of the iconic retailers you could want, from the Disney Store to Sears. But of course, that interior would change over time, and as other developers continued to build retail basically unchecked, and as online retail drew shoppers away, many of those big brand name draws either closed their doors or moved to other spots that could provide the shoppers. Westminster just wasn't successful as a mall at a lower occupancy rate with low-end stores, which really meant its closure was almost set in stone by the 2010s. And it really did die a quiet death. In the making of this video, I'm actually shocked at how little has been documented and archived of this property. Just finding photos and videos from inside was tedious. But at the same time, I know for a fact that so many have shared memories here. But when it's all said and done, I think what truly will cement this mall's legacy are the few weeks that followed its closure. The sheer insanity which occurred inside the building through January 2026. A shocking free-for-all which made national news and came as quite a shock for local residents. It's honestly very similar to what happened to Oceanwide Plaza in downtown Los Angeles. A series of towers which, left unchecked, allowed all kinds of people to leave their mark on it. In the end, I think through its 51-year-long history, there might be no better physical representation of the fall of the American mall than this. If you like this video or learned something new,
I feel like, again, I don't watch them too often, but YouTube often recommend me video like this about, like, dead malls and urban exploration of them. And, they seem to be dying faster and faster in the US, right? Which makes sense, like online shopping versus going to the location and all that. So, but yeah, interesting video. I mean, again, in the end, it seems like it doesn't matter because they were gonna destroy it anyway. So like whatever, that they tagged the place and destroyed everything. But I still don't feel like it, like it really doesn't matter that much. But it just like feels like I don't like it. Yeah, in the end, it's really it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? Yeah. It's just a place, but again, as they said, like a lot of people had memories and stuff like that. So like putting it in this state before it gets destroyed is kind of messed up, I feel like, yeah. I don't really like urban exploration stuff, even though there's only one channel that I rewatch, which I often share on Discord, called Chie. I love his stuff. I've been watching it for like many, many years. Oh, I've watched this video before, Yamato. I have a reaction on the channel actually. Like he just had a new video, like going to a ghost town in Germany, and it's the type of urban exploration channel I like because technically he's doing something illegal, right? He's trespassing on a lot of places, but he doesn't really like break anything or steal anything or tag anything, And he really gets into a lot of like really cool place. Like in this most recent video, he goes into like a giant crane kind of location. Where is it? Can I find it? Oh yeah, it's this thing, like this giant, like crazy digging crane machine, and it's just really.
I am definitely
interesting stuff.
Going through one of these, probably down.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Urbex video when someone is not just there to like destroy stuff or take stuff. I guess. Yeah. But I do know that a lot of Urbex channel, like they don't care, right? They just go. Like it's abandoned, so I can destroy everything. I feel like is what they think, yeah. So yeah, really good video. We learned quite a bit about this mall. Here's the link.